Okay, so I'm Emma. I have been with the Living Seas team since December as an intern, and part of my work I've had an internship project which has been looking at citizen science within the Wildlife Trust, and I have developed my own crab survey. So a volunteer down in South Wales, he's a master's student at Swansea, and he's looking at the interaction between edible crabs and another species of crab called the Montagues, and he was just wondering if we had actually seen any of these crabs around North Wales, just to get an idea of where their populations are. And at the time, I hadn't seen any. Nia thought she might have done, but wasn't sure. So I've come up with this survey to help us understand where the crab populations are. And it's not just the Montagues, it's most of the rocky shore crabs that you will probably find around North Wales. So yeah, and it's called Crabtastic, which is a nice fun name, I think. Okay, so the purpose, so this is a kind of a cross between a walkover and a timed species search. I don't know if you've done any training for those yet, but it's taking aspects from both. So it is a self-led survey at the moment. Maybe in the future when restrictions are eased a bit, we can expand it out to be a group survey, a bit more like the shore search, biodiversity search. So yeah, the idea is just to create a baseline of the crab populations around North Wales, as well as monitor for things like climate change indicators, which the Montagues is supposedly one, and also parasites and disease amongst crabs, and provide you guys with some crab identification training. So the equipment you'll need. So this will be going out on beaches, and we all know North Wales is not the most warm of places, so please do take yourself some food and hot drink or something just to keep you going. And then it'll be good if you take your phone. So we will be asking you to take photos of the crabs you find just as a verification method. And also if you can use a GPS app to mark the area that you're searching. And also as a timer. So the search will be for 10 minutes at a time. So you want to be able to keep track of that. I'm in the process of making a crab ID guide to take out for you guys to take out. This will be available soon. It's just being translated at the moment. And we also have a data sheet for you to fill in, which I will show you a bit later. So you'll need a pencil for that. And obviously suitable clothing. So wellies or walking boots. The survey is designed for rocky shores, so you want to make sure you've got appropriate footwear and gloves. Again, with the cold weather, you want to keep your hands nice and warm. And if you're digging around in rock pools and you get wet, it's, gloves will help. I like using diving gloves because then you get nice warm water after a while. So I'd recommend diving gloves if you have them. So where? Any rocky shore around North Wales, we want you to survey if you can. So if you're going for a walk along any of your local beaches and you see a rocky area and you've got 10 minutes or so, you're more than welcome to survey that. It doesn't just have to be natural rocky shores. So if there are rock boulder defences along a shore, then please have a look at route around there. You never know what you will find. So yeah, I've got some photos of some sunny bits of North Wales here. So we've got Trada Bay, Benlech and Roscollin and Rosniger, I think, are along here. So we do get blue sunshine sometimes. So the method. The first step is to choose a shore. So it can be, like I said, any rocky shore in your local area. If there's a beach that you walk on regularly, then that's always handy if it's something to do on your daily walks. So you will want to choose an area to search in. You can use geographical markers or just put your bags or something out to mark the area out you want to search. So on this photo here, I've marked out with stars where I've searched between. So I would start at the base of this rock pool here, go towards the end of this shingle bed, and then along to the big rock over in that area. And I'd search in there for 10 minutes. So yeah, you will search for crabs for 10 minutes. Look carefully, they will be hiding in all sorts of different places. Under boulders, in crevices, just any nooks and crannies really, and under seaweed as well. So just be very vigilant and be careful and take your time.
Can I ask, Emma?
Yeah.
How big of an area, or does it depend on the area you're actually looking at as the topography of it? Does it
So,
depend? Or
yes, it will depend on how quickly you want an area that you can search in 10 minutes. So it'll probably take a bit of trial and error, but some places you'll be able to search a bigger area just because it's probably less places for the crabs to hide in. So it will depend on the beach and how vigilant you are at searching.
oh, thank you.
No problem. Okay, so when you find a crab, please record it. So this is what the data sheet looks like. So yes, it'd be quite good. It's a good idea to write down the start time of each of your searches. Then we can go back and look at the what the tide's like, so we can see where you were in the tide. It can be quite easy to go over 10 minutes if you don't hear the alarm on your phone or just misjudge it or something. It doesn't matter, just write down how long it was. If you've gone over 5 minutes, just write 15 minutes down. And then when it comes to writing down your crabs, just write down the common name for it. That's what most people will recognize it by, and it's their Latin names can be quite hard to remember. And then just make a note of if it's got eggs or not, and if you took a photo, and also the habitat you found it in. So there is a little box underneath this, which I should have put in, and I apologize for that, but just a list of the microhabitats for the crabs on rocky shores. So this is, again, for the student in the south who just wants to know a bit more about their habitats as well, just for his work. If you come across a dead crab or a molt, please write it down and just make a note next to it that you have found that it's dead or a molt. They are still good indicators that the crab is on the shore. And if you're not sure of the species, just make a note that you've taken a photo and remember to send that photo to us so we can help you ID it. So after your first 10 minutes have finished, give yourself a break. I think it's always a good excuse to have a biscuit on a beach with a cup of tea or something. And then if you want to, choose yourself a secondary area to search. So here I've moved over to the other side of the boulder, so I would turn my back on the area previously searched and continue down the shore a bit. You do need to make sure you've not searched the area you've already seen. We don't want to have double replicates of the crabs. Search up to 3 times, so don't spend more than 30 minutes actually searching, unless you absolutely want to, but we don't want, and don't feel obliged to do 3. If you've only got 10 minutes, just do 10 minutes, that will be fine. And once you've finished, email us your data sheet and the photos so we can start collecting the data together, and we can upload it to Cofnod and create hopefully maybe some maps around North Wales of where the crabs are found and abundances and things like that. A bit of health and safety. So you will be out on rocks, so make sure to wear suitable footwear to reduce the risk of slipping and injuring yourself. You might want to look under boulders, but make sure it's a boulder that you can easily move by pushing it with one hand so you don't strain yourself. And yes, like I said earlier, wear gloves. Not only will it protect you from the cold, but a lot of these crabs can be quite aggressive and they will try and nip you, so just be aware of that. Some of these crabs also you can find in the shallows of waters. So on some beaches you've got quite a shallow slope off into the waters, and there's big boulders which you can look under. You're welcome to go in if you want to, but you don't have to if you don't want to. Just make sure you don't go deeper than ankle depth, just safety reasons, and don't want you getting washed away. And also, as you're on a beach, keep an eye on the tide. Don't want to, again, get washed away. Make sure you tell somebody that you're going out, just in case something does go wrong, which I'm sure it won't. So I shall now go on and talk to you a bit about crab identification. So I will start off with the shore crab. So this is quite a common species you'll find around North Wales. Probably one of the most recognisable shore crabs. So they're generally green in colour, but they can be red or orange, and smaller ones, again, quite variable in colour. I've seen ones which have been white black dots on when they're thumb sized. So do be careful, the colour isn't always a good identification feature. So each side of their shell, they have 5 teeth, as you can see on this drawing between A and B. There are 5 spikes, so that will also help you identify them. And generally the base of their carapace here at D is thinner than the widest bit, so it's almost triangular shaped. So it's quite easy to gender a shore crab. So on the left here, we have got a male crab, which is on its abdomen has got a triangular shape, whereas a female on the right here has got a more rounded shape, which is where she will store her eggs. And there's a photo here of a female crab carrying her eggs. So if you do come across one of these, be careful. We don't want to damage her or her eggs, as they're the next population to keep the crabs going. And shore crabs also are susceptible to a parasitic barnacle. So this is one of the things with, if you do see, just make sure you make a note of it just next on the data sheet, just write parasites and maybe take a photo. So these barnacles is it's the yellow blob underneath the abdomen at the bottom. It doesn't look like a barnacle, but that's more to do with the larval phase that you can identify it as a barnacle. They live generally inside the crab, and they just have the pouch that extrudes as they grow. So in male crabs, they make the crab infertile, and in female crabs, the barnacle changes the behavior to make them think they're pregnant or carrying eggs, which generally causes them to migrate deeper into the water. So if you do, you might not actually find the barnacle higher up the shore because the crab will be wandering down the shore into deeper waters. So they're not the most common to see on a beach. And next is the velvet swimmer. So again, I think this is a scary crab. They have bright red eyes, which make them look very devilish, and they're the only crab with red eyes, so that is a very strong ID feature. They also have, their back leg is flat, as you might be able to see on the right-hand picture here. So this helps them swim. They are a swimming crab. But yeah, they will be blue in colour, and they have a long, like their pincers are quite sharp, and they are very aggressive. So if you come across one, do watch out for your fingers. They are territorial, they will go for you. The finger there is mine, and I'm just pressing it gently to the rock because I want to take a photo, but I don't want to pick it up and get attacked. So yeah. They can grow up to about 8 centimeters. Yeah, and they do have teeth along their shell. It's quite hard to see, but they have 10 teeth along there. It's called the frontal margin. So next is the edible crab, probably another one you're quite familiar with. These are the ones that if you eat crabs, you'll most likely eat in restaurants. They are oval in shape, and they're an orangey, browny, reddish colour with the crimped edge, make it look like almost like a pie crust. They're the only crabs with this identifying feature. Their claws are black tipped, and they're quite docile, so they will, if you pick them up, they'll bring their legs in together, and it's unlikely that they will attack you. So these crabs share a similar habitat to the Montagues, which is the key one that we're looking for. So the Montagues crab, to me, looks a cross between a shore crab and an edible. So it kind of has the similar shell shape of a shore crab, but the claws of the edible. They'll have the black tips again. Yes, they are called bodybuilder crabs sometimes. They kind of look like they do a lot of workout on their shells, and it looks kind of muscular, if a crab can look muscular. So these guys, they do come in a variety of colours again. When they're older, they're generally brown, but when they're younger, they can be white or just all sorts of colours. So colour is, again, not a good ID feature. They are very similar to the next crab, which is the Risso's crab. So these guys, they'll be a similar size, a similar shape. However, they will have fur or hair covering their back legs, which the Montague's crab doesn't. So if you come across a crab which looks like a shore crab with edible crab claws and furry legs, then it's a Risso's crab. But also, there will be a variety of colours. We've got a white one here, one with more orangey and then a dark one. So its colour is unfortunately not helpful. They'll grow. These will both grow to about 7 centimeters in carapace width, and they're both found lower on the shores and in the similar region to where the edibles are found. And then next, the hermit crabs, which I'm sure you've all seen before. So we do have a lot of different species of hermit crabs in the UK. Some of them are right-handed, but there's only one species which is left-handed, which is the Diogenes species we have here on the right. So what I mean by right-handed is they have one claw bigger than the other. So if their right claw is bigger, they're right-handed, and if their left claw is bigger, they're left-handed. The right-handed crabs, so on the left here, I should have done it the other way around. So there's quite a lot of different species of them, including the common hermit crab. So if you do see one with a bigger right claw, please take a photo so we can try and ID it better rather than just saying hermit crab. But they can be a variety of sizes, and they're found in all sorts of different gastropod shells. So often whelks, dog whelks, or winkles. And they can also, the shells might have biofouling, such as here, they've got barnacles growing on them. So if you see a shell walking slowly across a rock pool, that's going to be a hermit crab. And yeah, the common hermit crab will be red, which might help you ID the right-handed hermit crabs from each other. And next, going to talk about a few of the spider crab species you might find. So this is the sea toad spider crab. They have long, thin legs like a spider, and they are often covered in mats of algae, bryozoans, or even invertebrates. And they will blend in quite well to the background. As you can see, it would be quite hard to see that one in a bed of algae. They have 2 thin horns on the head which point outwards, which is this bit here, and their body is generally triangular in shape, or rather pear-shaped, sorry. And the next is the slender spider crab. So these are normally quite small, and they're quite well hidden, and they have really, really spindly legs, almost daddy long legs like, in my opinion. They can be quite pale, but generally red or brown in colour, and which help them just blend in with rocks or even sand. And they also have a triangular body shape. They do have quite long claws, which aren't about the same length as their legs, but a bit thicker. And then, so the next 2 are porcelain crabs. So this one here is the broad-clawed porcelain crab. They have big claws, as you can see here. These are quite small. They get to about 1.5 centimeters in shell length here, so they are quite titchy crabs, really. You'll find them under boulders in the mid to low shore, and these ones are covered in a load of hair all over their body, which can get covered in mud. So as you can see in the bucket here, they look like they're covered in mud, but that's just sediment sticking to the fur or hair. Yeah, they have big claws, big broad claws, which is how you identify them from the other porcelain crab, the long-clawed porcelain. So again, these are they'll be a similar size, about 1 to 2 centimeters in length, and they have the long claws. So these 2 crabs only actually have 3 pairs of walking legs. Most crab species have 4, but their 4th pair of walking legs are they're a lot smaller, and they normally just tuck them up under their body, so you won't be able to see them. So if you find a small 3-paired leg of walking crab with 3 pairs of walking legs, it will be a porcelain, and then you just look at the claws to differentiate between the 2. And so not a crab, but still an interesting find, it's the European lobster. You do sometimes find them on low shores in rocks and tunnels. If you come across this one, which will be very rare, do look out. They are very aggressive and territorial, and they have big, strong claws. So you do not want to get your fingers caught between their claws. They are blue in colour, which can be quite vivid sometimes, but sometimes it's hard to tell because they're covered in like mats of algae or bryozoans or something. And they have 2 pairs of antennae, which are both red. As you can see in this photo, there's the 2 shorter ones in the middle, and they have a pair of long ones, which are about the same length as the body. And then next, so these are the squat lobsters. They're not quite lobsters and they're not quite crabs. They're more related to the hermit crabs. So these guys, you only really see their thorax, which is this body here where the legs are attached to. Their abdomen folds underneath. So that would be like the lobster tail folding itself underneath. And they are normally covered in spines or hairs, quite short hairs. So we have the common squat lobster on the left here, which is red, and it's kind of got blue, almost veining running through the carapace, but this can also sometimes be green, so you need to look out for that one. And then we have the long-clawed squat lobster on the right. Again, this is red in color, but it has a lot longer claws than the normal squat lobster. So they reach to about 6-7 centimeters long, so they're not the biggest, and they are quite rare. I don't think you'd be very lucky to find one. I've never seen one on a beach. So yeah, and then next, so the masked crab is actually a sandy beach crab species, but they're quite interesting. So they will dig themselves under the sand and they will leave the marking like on the photo on the right here. So if you see that marking, then it's possible that there's a crab somewhere nearby or has been there. They have 2 antennae which they stick together, which can form a respiratory tube when they're under the sand, so they can still breathe. And they're quite pale in color, but they're kind of reddy brown, maybe a bit of a yellowish tinge in some of them. But yeah, and so finally, I'm going to talk about 2 species of invasive species. So the first one is the Asian shore crab here. So this was first spotted in, I think, down near Barry Island in South Wales, and it's only been spotted in Kent as well so far, but potentially it might spread. They will outcompete our native shore crab and have the potential to disrupt shell fisheries as they prey on the juvenile mussels and oysters. They're square-shaped. They have a square-shaped carapace, and they have 3 teeth on each side. So just there along the side there. And finally, you might have heard of this one before, the Chinese mitten crab. So this is mainly a freshwater species, but they do come into estuarine environments to breed, which is why I've put them on here, so you might find them in the marine environment. They have claws which are covered in a thick mat of fur, so you can identify them from, it looks like they're wearing mittens, hence the name. They do cause a lot of damage to freshwater environments. They can cause habitat degradation, and they prey on a lot of animals, causing a lot of competition. So if you find either of these 2 species, please report it or tell us and we'll report it for you. So for the mitten crab, they have their own website, which is mittencrabs.org.uk, to submit a recording. And for other non-native species, there's non-nativespecies.org you can go to. So thank you very much for watching and paying attention. Do you have any questions?